Okay. All right. Hi everyone. Welcome to our webinar, Leap into the Future of AI. I am Emma Borkhoff, Head of Marketing in the US with 8Fig, and we are so excited to have Steve Mudd here as well, the CEO of Talentless AI. I will just give everyone a few minutes to filter in, and then we will kick things off. And if I like to get like if people can say like where they're tuning in from. I think if the chat is open. Hmm, maybe I have to turn the chat on.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I think we'll give everyone maybe like 30 more seconds and then we will just jump right in. Um, oh, chat is disabled. Okay, well, I will figure out how to turn on chat, but in the meantime, in the meantime, we'll just kick things off. Awesome. So thanks everyone for joining. I'm really excited to have you here. This will be a very interesting topic. So yeah, talking about AI and using that for your content strategy for your e-com store. Maybe if you could just go to the next slide, Steve, that'd be perfect.
Oh, maybe. There we go.
Wonderful. So real quick, just about 8Fig. So maybe some of you know of us, maybe not. But basically we fund e-commerce stores. The way we kind of differentiate ourselves is that our funding is actually incremental and aligns with your supply chain. So instead of just getting a big fat chunk of cash, we actually have you map out what you need in terms of your inventory and the costs associated with that. And then we make sure that you have the money that you need right when you need it. Another thing is that we have quite a few tools that we are in the process of launching now that are free to everyone to use. So like a cash flow planner and forecast and sales forecasting. So yeah, check us out at 8fig.co. But anyways, I want to pass it. Actually, I will introduce Steve. Yeah, do you have a oh,
Oh, sure. I
I
have a
love it. It's just
slide
like
for later. We can go.
so so easily amused. Okay, awesome. So Steve Mudd is the founder and CEO of Talentless AI, a new Austin-based creative agency that uses real and artificial intelligence to deliver provocative content with synthetic media. He's also currently the host of AIAF, a next-gen creative podcast featuring artificial conversations about real intelligence. Steve has a long history as an IT storyteller. He most recently ran strategic messaging and content marketing for NetApp and previously worked for Ogilvy on brands such as IBM, Lenovo, Level 3 Communications, and Iron Mountain. He was also the host of popular um uh he was the host of the popular Ogilvy podcast. He marketed wind energy for Xcel Energy, helped transform sales and marketing for Encyclopedia Britannica. That's a nice name. Oh, and was a tour guide for the Coors Brewery. Fun fact. He also wrote and directed and produced the feature film Seclusion, now available on VHS at your local Blockbuster. Yeah, yeah, the local Blockbuster. There's probably, I think
And,
there's one
and, and
maybe.
DVD. It's on DVD too.
Oh, DVD, great. Yeah, slightly more accessible. Anyways, awesome. So very excited to have you, and I will just hand it over to you to get things going.
Oh, that's great. Thank you very much. I really appreciate it. Really happy to be here today, and you're kind of sharing some of what we've been able to learn I come at this from maybe a different angle. I know everyone's talking about AI right now. Like there's a lot of buzz out there at different levels, and some people are deeper than others. I'm very much in the pro AI camp. I'm so excited by Gen AI, and I actually believe it's going to make our content better and more human. There's a lot of pushback right now. Is AI making us less human? No, I think it is actually going to make us more human. Now, aside from that, it also is going to it makes things faster and cheaper. And so it allows you to really experiment more. So I'm really excited about that piece as well. So we'll talk about, some different ways that you could apply that. Um, this is a thing you're going to start to see, content disclaimers. This is a new area of content ethics where you kind of want to call it out, like, hey, look, is this generated by AI or was this generated by a human being? So this presentation was put together by me with some help from my team. We used AI. Um, as was mentioned in the intro, I'm the CEO of Talentless. We've been around for about a year right now. I consider myself a multimodal creator. That's a new term. I'll talk a little bit about that as well. I'm a writer by trade. Like that's kind of my basic skill set is writing. Um, and at some level, I've never lost the tour guide in me. So this is kind of like a tour of all the cool things in AI that are going on in the world. So Talentless itself is a next-gen agency that we're kind of focused on the creation of good content, also good content at scale. So this is the only pitch you'll get from me today, but we can help you with content creation, management, AI transformation, sort of, next-gen social, things like that. If you want, more training for your team, that sort of thing, give us a call. That's all you're going to hear. So here's my rough agenda. I'm going to kind of set the stage a little bit, like you frame out what, a little bit about Gen AI. We're going to look at words, images, and video, and then sort of a hodgepodge of some other interesting stuff out there. So as we frame it out, like what is Gen AI? If you don't quite understand it, that's okay. And what solutions are there out there? There's only like a gazillion, so we'll talk through that. So taking a step back from the data, from the IT side of AI that you keep hearing about, large language models and all of that. If you look at what's happened is they've brought these language models together, and they're essentially huge collections of writing, huge collections of images, huge collections of videos. So when you frame it out a little bit, to me, Gen AI represents that greatest collection of storytelling artifacts ever assembled. I'm a huge storytelling fan. Actually, I've taught a class on storytelling. There is a structure to how stories get told. There is a structure to how things work. That structure is encapsulated in language. It's encapsulated in writing. And so when you look at what Gen AI does, it has all of those things in one place. So I'm going to cover a lot of different technologies today, probably going pretty fast. Here's a quick starter of just some of the things out there. But broadly, there's this category of like text to X, I'm calling it. Like you'll hear text to speech, text to image, text to word, text to video, text to this, to that. So text to X is kind of the umbrella statement for that. So we're going to talk a little bit about text and ideas and images and speech. And again, some of this you may have heard from other sources, but we're going to definitely get to the point where you're seeing some stuff you probably have not seen before. So words, again, I'm a writer. You can debate the quality of writing that comes out of GPT, but I'm going to try to help you get to a point where some of those words are better. Everything starts with ideation. You have to come up with an idea somewhere. I have found GPT to be a wonderful brainstorming tool. Just going in there and asking open-ended questions. If you haven't used GPT at all, obviously go in there, sign up for Gemini or take a look at Claude, and just keep asking questions. Like try different angles of questions. If you're trying to come up with an idea for a campaign or something to elevate your content, ask what would Steve Jobs do? What would Elon Musk do? What would Bill Clinton do? Whoever, right? Like just poke it and prod it in different ways to kind of see what comes out of it, and then ask it for different examples. And you can actually be mean to the GPT. You can tell it that's a terrible idea. Give me a better idea. Or you can give it good feedback, or you can tell it to give you an idea of someone else's voice. So you'll see lots of prompt tips out there in the world. But you basically just keep asking questions. So writing, of course, is rewriting. If you have, there's obviously a bunch of writing tools out there. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on these. Jasper is probably the so far the preeminent writing tool for marketers, where you can basically go in there, input your campaign brief into Jasper, and it will create content. It'll write blogs and landing pages and email. It'll do all kinds of content from like a single prompt, all in the formats that you need for business. So Jasper is one that um, I highly recommend if you're in the business of writing a lot of content out there. The other cool thing, prompt once, write natively in every language. So I'll show kind of an example of how some of that comes together. So this was we've been looking at the automotive industry a bit lately, so I kind of use this as an example. I was on a dealer's website, and the description on the left is what the dealer had for this Lotus vehicle. 2020 Lotus Evora. Wow, heated door mirrors, low tire pressure warning. Like that was just boring, right? So I'm like, hey, GPT, write a better description, right? So if you look at your product descriptions, ask GPT to write you something that is more exciting, more exhilarating, more interesting for what you're working on. And you can also ask GPT to write multiple things at the same time. So I took that same description of the car and said, hey, can you write one sentence that's talking to gearheads, one section that's talking to luxury enthusiasts, one section in Spanish? Actually, when I asked it to do Spanish, it did all the audiences in Spanish as well at the same time. So that's if you deal, if your company is trying to deal with international markets with Spanish language content or any language, you can create that directly out of the models. That's one of those light bulb moments for me when I realized, oh, I don't have to hire a translator anymore. I can simply create the content in the language that I need it to be in. Now, the other thing I'm starting to see, and this annoys me worse than anything else, just because you've read my LinkedIn profile doesn't mean we have a personal connection. Don't lie to me. Don't pretend like you know me. And I really don't care if you're impressed by my background. So a lot of times, if you're prompting GPT and a lot of the tools that are out there that are purporting to do personalization, they basically come up with some level of, oh, I see that you went to college. Oh, I see that you're a human being. Let me send you something. That personalization is really starting to weigh on people. And I think it's really hurting outreach. So as you think about how you talk to your customers, you can actually start to use GPT to talk about it in a different way. So on the left is an email that I actually received. I won't call out who sent it, but the email is, hey, Steve, saw you're based in Austin. Recently visited and had an amazing time exploring Zilker Metropolitan Park. Now, I've only been in Austin like 2 years, but nobody says Zilker Metropolitan Park, right? So it's obvious right away that is not, that's just bullshit. And so you have to, if you're using some sort of an AI writer or something that's involved with your outreach, prompt that in a different way. Ask it to write in an authentic tone that speaks to the needs of an audience. And I actually had to prompt, so I tried to have GPT rewrite this in an effective way. So I went through 3 different prompts before it got it right. Rewrite it in an authentic tone that speaks to the needs of the audience. Write it like someone who understands what it actually do. And then write it from the voice of someone who sounds like they could influence me. And avoid jargon and flattery. Like nobody believes your flattery. If you don't know somebody, don't try to flatter them. So this was what came out, like a much more solid execution. Hey Steve, I saw you're based in Austin, wanted to reach out. After getting a sense of what you're trying to do, I think we have an opportunity to help you. Boom, flat out. I get so many of these of these outreach emails a day that it's overwhelming, and your customers are being overwhelmed by all of these messages. So don't try to bullshit them with AI. Use AI to find some sort of an authentic tone in what goes on. The other cool thing, storytelling, again, narrative content is in. There's a wonderful agency by the name of Caspian Studios. They do narrative podcasts right now. So they have like Murder in HR. So what is there a story that can be told about your product? Is there something that you can do that you could create a narrative series where people might binge? You know, like we're gonna like tell a story in multiple TikTok videos, tell a story across Instagram posts, tell a story on video or in a graphic novel format. Um, it's just kind of a cool way to get people to keep coming back. You know, we get so insularly focused on, you know, this one piece of content must hold everything and sell everything. Not the case, right? You want people to come back. You want them to look at more of what you've got going on. Um, so let's talk about images. We're going to talk a little bit about stock images and sort of the basic um, mid-journey images and things like that. And then talking about upcycling some of your existing content. Like if you have a library of photographs, we'll talk a little bit about product photography as well. You know, bottom line is the image generators that are out there, you know, Midjourney and you know, everything else are good, and they're really good. And if you've seen some things that you think, oh, that's an AI image, yeah, there is an AI image. But when you can have a professional come in and you know, find somebody who knows how to prompt or kind of learn how to prompt yourself, you can get some really amazing quality of images. So here's a couple of examples. These are not real people, right? Like these look like photographs. So you can essentially create your own custom library of stock images. You can incorporate your brand colors, like whatever you want. You don't need to use if you anybody who continues to use the old stock images in like a year is going to really you can tell. Like I can tell now. You know, I've done a lot of time in B2B world. Everybody in B2B is using the same collection of stock images. For what they do, and it gets old very quickly. Tony Tamsing, my creative director, you know, he's like a mid-journey magician. Like, so if you have a stylized image that you want, or something that aligns to your brand, or is a little bit weird, or is a little bit out there, is a little bit creative, great. Go in and do that, right? Like, you know, you can find that flavor for what your business is. You know, if you want to have like an animated series, you know, like we had talked about for one of our clients, like, well, what if we created this mythology around this product, you know, and we actually had like animated characters to share that. Like you can do that as well. These are not necessarily complicated things to prompt. Just from my own world, you know, on our Instagram, we have you know, we have like a look and feel, you know, and so the prompt structure that is set up in there kind of hones in like these are the colors we want, these are the feelings we want, you know, this is what comes out of that. So I won't spend a lot of time on prompt tips there. You know, there's all kinds of great stuff. I just ask GPT, right? I always ask GPT for some prompting tips to create good products. The other emerging thing out there, product imagery. I know that's a huge thing. So the best advice I've seen so far, and I think this will change over time, is if you have a product, you obviously need photographs of that product. And the best thing to do is to create you know, high quality 4K photos from a lot of different directions with a lot of different lighting. And then you can actually, so part of the challenge with AI is that, you know, the images, it's not always easy to incorporate images. You know, like certainly you could do that in, you know, traditional design tools and things like that. But if you want to do it quickly, it's not necessarily easy. But you can actually prompt Midjourney and everything else and start to match the lighting that you captured from your photographs so that it's a lot easier to kind of swap those images in. The other technology that's there at a big budget, but may not always be there on a smaller budget, like it's almost there, essentially is 3D modeling. Runway is a solution, and I'll talk a lot about Runway in a minute. Runway is pretty cool. You can go in and create a 3D model of your product, you know, so you can kind of, you know, capture it from multiple angles and use that 3D model in images or in videos. It's not quite there, not quite ready for prime time in a lot of ways, at least as far as I've seen, but it's coming, right? Like all of these things are advancing quicker than anything else that's out there. So I know everybody's stuck with some amount of photos, right? Like you've got photos of stuff, you got old photos, bad, there's a lot of cool things you can actually do with this technology that can take your old photos and make them more interesting. So I'm going to show just a couple of examples of that. Okay, here's a photo of me trying on a cowboy hat at a store in Wimberley, Texas. If you haven't been to Wimberley, it's a wonderful place. You should check it out. So here's me with a cowboy hat. This was the aspect ratio. I switched it to black and white because cowboys in black and white look cool. So that's what we had there. Now, one thing you can do is take that photo and expand the edges of it. Oops, where did my button go? So using Runway, I was able to take that photo and extend it. So I had a narrow photo and I extended it. So all of that is generative AI. It sort of blends in. It's a little bit weird, but it's there and it can kind of do that. What if that's not quite the full image that I want or need? I put it in color, right? I can actually put it back in color. And generative AI is able to figure out the lighting and put things in color. Well, that's not interesting enough for me. So let's talk about maybe I need a parrot. So you can erase and have a parrot that comes into the picture as well at the same time. Now, let's say, okay, now this doesn't work at all. We don't want to show the store. We just want something else. Let's put the cowboy on a beach. Pretty easy to just change the background of photos. And maybe more so, it's so much faster than I think traditional design sort of techniques to do that. And then the AI sort of adjusts for the lighting as well at the same time. So all of these little tips and tricks were done with Runway to kind of fill out that photo. So you have to kind of brainstorm, like, what can we do with the photos? What could we do with what we have to make it more interesting and play with it in a different way? Now, here's something else you could do with that photo is not make it a photo anymore. I should have dramatic music playing. I haven't added music to this particular clip. So this is an amazing new technology, and I'll talk at some length about it, but text to video in the shortest way possible. So Runway has a tool, it's called a motion brush. And with that motion brush, you can go into a photograph, highlight different areas, and direct their movement. So you can tell the clouds to move in one direction. You can tell the water to be turbulent or quiet. You can have one thing move in one direction, move something else. You can essentially turn your photographs into interesting action items, into interesting little video clips that you can use elsewhere. We've used that in a couple different smaller applications. We were trying to get some idea of the cooking process across, but we didn't want to shoot a whole cooking thing. So we created an image of cooking and then animated part of that image, to look like the meat was sizzling. So there's little applications of this that you can do to start to create some more interesting clips to kind of up level what your content is. The motion brush then also gives you this amazing capability to, also zoom in and zoom out and pan just like a regular camera will. So again, taking a look at that, you kind of see how that motion comes together. So all those different areas were kind of directed in different ways to move. So that is one of the most compelling bits of things. And as you start to think about how to weave that in with other pieces of content, it gets really, really interesting quickly. So that, again, is kind of the segue into videos. I'll start first with what's the easy button? Right? Like nobody's got time for that. Nobody has time to do anything. So how do you create videos quickly and easily? And then we're going to look at some things that are really crazy, uncanny. So you have a pile of photographs. Let's say you have a pile of car photographs, for example. I'll play these. Let me mute that. Canva, if you haven't seen it, CapCut, Pictory, all kinds of new video editing things that are totally templatized, right? You could do this. CapCut is actually owned by the same people that own TikTok. So if you're not using CapCut, it's probably a good idea to get in there if TikTok is important to your strategy. But you just upload like the video on the left. Actually, I think both of these videos, it basically there's an AI magic wizard in Canva that says, what type of a video are you trying to create? And I said, well, a video to promote this car. And then it asked, and then it said, okay, well, give me the pictures. So yeah, you upload all the pictures of the car, and all of a sudden it turned it into that. Total time investment, 5 minutes, right? Like it's like crazy easy. So we're looking at different applications, depending on the type of businesses, if you're dealing with mass amounts of inventory, right? There's automation that can happen here. You can take your inventory, you can take, if you have a dynamically changing inventory, you can actually automate some of that process to create that content. Or figure out systemic ways to just sort of pull this in and start to automatically do some of this stuff, which in the past sort of seems would have been time prohibited. Oops. All right, so synthetic media, your other new buzzword for the day. What is synthetic media? Essentially, I've boiled it down to this idea that synthetic media is the recreation of reality through a combination of real elements and artificial elements. And as I get a little philosophical about it, because there is some question of what is reality in the digital world? What is real? Like we've all become so accustomed to CGI, right? Like you can't watch a movie that doesn't have some form of CGI anymore. It's just part of what's going on. And so you have this other movement of new synthetic media tools that are now in our hands, and not in the hands of the Hollywood creators, the big budget. I've got a gazillion dollars and the most amazing designers and the animation software and the Pixar this and that. There's stuff that we can do ourselves. So one example of what synthetic media looks like.
First things first, let's debunk a myth. You don't need big bucks, a star-studded team, or even weeks of planning to create top-notch content. No, sir. Talentless AI is the key here, shattering these misconceptions, one AI-generated storyboard at a time.
Remember the big, expensive production company we used to hire? No more. With Talentless AI, we're moving from script to production in a fraction of the time.
That gives you a flavor of what synthetic media is. So I'll first talk about how to create these videos and what you're seeing in these videos. This video is essentially created, it's a new technology. It is text to video. So you basically you can build these explainer videos like you would build a PowerPoint. And what's happened is there's like this arms race of capabilities now among some of the core providers. Synthesia was one of the first ones on the market. They had some funding from Mark Cuban. HeyGen is coming on really, really strong in that space. And then DID is out there as well. All these companies are working at similar aims. But within the scope of this PowerPoint, you can kind of see the little marks here in the script. Like you go in and write the script. You're able to tell your avatar to pause. You're able to tell them in some cases to gesture, to blink. Depending on how much time you want to put into that, you can manipulate some of that. I didn't put it on this slide, but you could. The voice technologies as well have gotten so sophisticated that you're able to sort of, if you wanted to nuance the voice, to turn things up, to speed things up. If the voice sounds a little bit creaky, like what goes in there, then you can actually do a speech-to-speech thing where you record yourself saying something like you want it to be said, and then the avatar mimics your own tone through that process. So I maybe gone a little bit too far, but there's an easy button part of this as well. Synthesia has this amazing now AI video writing tool where you go in, you see these inputs on the left. You're like, what template do I want? What's the visual template I want? What is the source of information So if you have your messaging, product descriptions or whatever, you could just sort of tell it, like, here's the background. I want 5 scenes. I want to convince people to do X, Y, Z. I want the audience that are going to this webinar doing this different thing. I want it in English. I want the speaker to be a genius marketer or whatever. I want the tone. So you basically do that creative brief up front, and AI will write the script for you and map out the entire video. This now takes like 5 minutes. And if you don't know how to write a video, if you're not good at writing video content, Synthesia, this tool is phenomenal. Like it really creates great, the language is there. Now, here's where, again, the synthetic part gets weird. What you're seeing in this space are real people and artificial people. So it's this weird mix. So Synthesia, HeyGen, DID, they have hired actors or hired people where they go in and record and they create a synthetic avatar of that person that you can then license to, if you get a license with their software, you could use those avatars for your purposes. Or you can use a fake person. Like if you wanted a fake Shakespeare, like DID, I think has, or HeyGen had like a Mona Lisa, if you want to use the Mona Lisa figure to speak. On the voice front, again, 11 Labs, and I'm a proud recipient of a grant from 11 Labs. So we're working with them on some interesting things. But so 11 Labs has created this library of voices where you can, it's like a voice marketplace now. So you don't have to go hire a voice artist. You can just go to 11 Labs and pick one out. And then you don't even have to talk to them. You can just put the script in and get the voice to come out of all of those different things. So the other part of that is you can actually create an avatar of yourself or something weird. So here's a couple examples of me goofing around with me.
Hi, I'm Steve Mudd's virtual avatar. Join Steve for Leap into the Future, an 8-fig webinar talking about how e-commerce companies can raise their content game with generative AI and synthetic media. Steve is the CEO of Talentless AI, a next-gen creative agency that builds cool content with AI. Steve is that annoying guy.
All right, so there's synthetic Steve. Now, there's different levels of avatar out there. Photographs and things. So essentially, again, what happens in this process is that they create a 3D model of you. So a photograph starts with 2D, so it's tough to get a 3D model out of that. You can do a longer webcam style video where you create a video of yourself and send it in, and they will create an avatar of you as well. So here's what a webcam avatar looks like of me.
Quiero leer Persépolis de Marjane Satrapi. Me encontré con un enemigo antiguo en la tierra. Él dijo que en el desierto se oyen enormes pisadas. En la arena hay un rostro translúcido y medio hundido. En la primavera de 3 días de arrugas y shiwaku.
Okay, so HeyGen is probably the farthest along in this, but the language capabilities on HeyGen are like next level, blow your mind good. I don't speak, I speak enough Spanish to be dangerous, but I don't speak like that. What HeyGen is able to do is take my tone, my inflection, and then also the natural tone and nuances of Spanish or other foreign languages. And so you can create videos in those languages naturally, where it sounds natural. So again, you don't have to go through that translation process. You can actually upload any video you want, any video content you have that you want to translate. 8fig will, or 8fig, HeyGen will take that video and translate it in voice. So it'll take the voice that you have already in that recording and use that voice as to speak in a foreign language. It was the most remarkable thing. I've spent so much money in my career on translation of different topics of different videos that was a real game changer for what was going on in that space. So again, to create your own personal avatar, if you want to create avatars of your executives, or if you want to become like, You can do it with a photo, a webcam, or the real deal, that like the first videos you saw, a studio avatar. So you record yourself, you record your spokesperson in front of a green screen in 4K, full 3D model capture, right? And that'll give you a little bit more control. They're also now adding capabilities, generative AI clothing. So you can say, oh, I want my avatar to wear this today. Some of those pieces. On the voice front, a couple good tools, Resemble 11 Labs I mentioned. 2 minutes of audio. 2 minutes is the minimum. With 2 minutes of audio, they can start to replicate your voice or the voices of someone else. More audio equals more control, maybe a little more nuance to it. 30 minutes of audio is a good sweet spot. If you have that collection, or for the really sophisticated applications, you can upload as much as 3 hours of audio. This technology is changing so quickly. 6 months ago, you couldn't upload audio of yourself you basically had to. I remember spending a couple of evenings just sitting here at my desk reading "The brown fox ran into the fuzzy forest" or whatever. So having to read these sentences over and over, and it was a very scripted process. But now the AI has gotten so sophisticated that voice replication just is uncanny and fast. So here's kind of the future too. Imagine if that avatar then can become the voice of support for you, can become the voice of your business. So like I look at the car buying experience now, right? You go to a car, and we've all gone through this. You look at the car's website and search by itself. We're like, oh, I want an 84 Ford Fiesta. You click on the thing and it's the year and it's the price. Like, we're used to clicking on those boxes. But what if you could have a chat bot that knows all of your inventory, knows everything that you have, knows everything about your product, but then also knows the greater context of what's going on around that? Like, what is the value prop of a Hyundai Tucson SUV versus a Nissan Versa versus the Lotus? Like, what are these cars good for? And how can you get consumers to make more educated decisions based on things that actually matter? If I go to a car dealer website now and ask, I need a good family car, I'm shooting in the dark. I'm clicking until I find a family car that might work. Here, you could actually have the chatbot recommend which car matches the actual needs that you have, or to prompt real life questions out of that. So your other new buzzword of the day, natural user interfaces. And I just updated this slide today because DID announced that their agent program is here now. Natural user interface. What does that mean? Well, that means you can talk to the avatar, whether that's a fake avatar, a real avatar, you want a character, you want to switch it up. You want to have a contextual avatar depending on where people are coming in on your website. Like, if they come from Google, we want authoritative voice. Or if they come from LinkedIn, we want this voice. You could really start to get to that level of sophistication. It's not hard to do. I hate saying that as someone who's in the business of selling these services. Like, oh no, this is totally easy. No, it's really, really difficult. Let me show you how difficult it is to create a natural user interface. Crazy easy. Crazy for a basic avatar that knows your business. It's so crazy easy. You go and essentially, you for the appearance, you select, okay, I want this. Like, this is my avatar. And then there's a knowledge base, and then you select the voice and the knowledge base, and then you give it some other instructions around chat. The knowledge base is similar. If you have used Jasper or you've used custom GPTs, you could simply upload things about your business that we know. So, if you have, there's a world where you can, again, make that contextually aware to your entire product set and to everything that's going on in your base. But you can have that chatbot up and running today. Like, DID just announced today that's out there. So check that out. That's probably the easiest one that I've seen so far to set up a cool little chatbot on your website. This also opens the door to a strange new world. Virtual influencers, you'll probably hear some buzz about that. I think the virtual influencer people are trying to get out there, but in certain it hasn't quite caught on as much in the United States, but in other markets, in Japan and South America, and other like some of these other these are not real people. And so essentially what they've done is they've created these elaborate lives of these fake people. So they create these elaborate libraries of images, of videos. They use face swapping technology, right? So you might take one video of a person dancing, but then you face swap your virtual avatar, influencer on there. So they could essentially have this influencer that does exactly what you want, whenever you want, forever. Now there's rules around all this, and I think we're learning as we go. Rule number one: never create an avatar or clone someone's voice without consent. When I first saw this technology, I'm like, I'm going to clone all of my friends and all that. And I'm like, no, that it's fun for a second, and then you're like, this is not good, right? Because people are uncomfortable with the idea of having their likeness sort of recreated like that without control. Understand the rights that are associated with the use of real people. So if you do use HeyGen or Synthesia, you make sure that you're reading the fine print as far as how you can use those things. If you do end up building avatars of specific people on your team, probably a good idea. Don't distribute content without approval. And again, content disclaimers. Just tell people like, hey, we're using synthetic content here. The content's been approved by the real people involved or whatever, something along those lines. And obviously be sensitive to the cultural implications, right, of using different avatars and voices. There's a whole concept out there of digital blackface, where you might choose avatars based on their cultural history, or that, oh, we want to look hip and cool and trendy, and if that's not actually in line with the reality of your business, that can certainly be an issue. Now, the cool thing in this text to video world, what's coming in the future, some of you may have seen the Sora stuff from OpenAI. This is like next level, change the world sort of technology. And when I say change the world, I say change the creative world. Everything that I showed you with with the text to video is relatively short right now. But if you didn't see the Sora video, I'll just play it. This is the 11 Labs version of the Sora video. Sora doesn't have sound, so 11 Labs added sound. So here's the Sora video with 11 Labs.
In a place beyond imagination, where the horizon kisses the heavens, one man dares to journey where few have ventured. Armed with nothing but his wit and an unyielding spirit, he seeks the answers to mysteries that lie beyond the stars.
All right, so if you haven't seen that before, that is like mind-numbing. So the difference between Sora, so Sora is out there as this future state. It's not as easy as like Midjourney, right? Like there's a lot going on in the background, but essentially OpenAI have modeled the physical world, right? Like everything we know about physics, they've kind of put into this model so they can recreate it. That's one of the biggest challenges. There are text to video generators that you can use today. These are a couple of videos that sort of this CGI for the masses. Runway is my favorite tool in there. Twisty is another one that's really good. Pika is like an open source one, and we've been able to create some really cool content that looks like short films. So again, if you're using stock video, This is a great replacement for stock video. If you want to do something that's fun and creative, you can really do some crazy high quality stuff with that. Now, what happens when you start to put all these things together, right? Like where the rubber really hits the road. Here's a few things that are kind of combinations of what my team put together for some different applications. We've got, like the video on the left kind of takes some text to image stuff and then animates it a little bit. But again, none of this is like real. We've just sort of had some fun in taking different applications and putting them together in short little videos that you can pop on TikTok that kind of look like regular TikTok videos. Super easy, super cool, fun, just little different applications of it as we sort of learn the technology. The other thing that's coming, I'll give a shout out to Rembrandt. This is a newer company. They have started to do this in AI, generative AI product placement. So they're working with different podcasters and things. So like this kind poster that you're seeing on the wall doesn't exist. That's Gen AI. So if you want to put your product in the background of other content, it's a really super easy way to do it without going through all the hassles of your traditional sort of product placement message. AI, et cetera. I know we're getting towards the end. There's this case for look-alive automation. And what I mean by that is there's a certain amount of social I know that everybody does just to look alive. But we're here. We're a company. We exist. How much of that content can you automate? So like for Talentless, I have automated the posting of content on my Instagram and on Facebook and elsewhere. We review the approach, we review the prompts, we review the content, but it just goes. And it's nice. I don't have to think about it, but I have a stream of content. For my business, I don't care about Instagram all that much. I'm not going to get a huge audience out of that, but I need to be there. So I have content that's going there that I don't have to think about. OmniKey is another new solution. These guys are really, really interesting. I know there's a number of platforms for putting out content and things like that. The thing that really struck me about OmniKey, they've started to do, and I'm sure this will start to filter around, but real live insights into content. And so what they do is they use Gen AI to describe an image, to say what's going on in this ad, with the colors, with the pictures, with the words, all of the aspects of it, to really start to get to what are the things that are actually moving the needle on performance, the actual qualitative things that you can do. I know one of the questions that we got in advance of this was, what can you do with Shopify? I'm certainly not a Shopify expert by any means. My team took a quick glance through it. Shopify, I think you're going to see this huge push across the board of folks that are, you're seeing AI being integrated with solutions everywhere. Some of the ones that sort of jumped out were Black Crow AI, Shopify Magic, the Shopify ones that are there. GoBot was an interesting one. Video, I've seen them in a couple different places as well, but they help you turn your Shopify store into something else. The fact of the matter is, all of this stuff is moving so crazy fast. Don't make any long-term investments into any software solution anywhere. Like just find a kind of a place to explore. And that's really, as we look at it, what is your use case? What problem are you trying to solve? Because obviously this is all sort of fun. But do you need more content? Do you need to up-level old content? Do you need content fast, right? Do you need to improve the speed? Can you automate it? These are some good questions to kind of start with. And I guess, and people will talk about the loss of jobs from AI. Where I'm kind of focused is what are the new jobs of this AI? And if you start to learn to pick up these tools, if you had one particular skill, you now can have multiple skills. So the rise of the multimodal creator was kind of the phrase I heard. So congratulations, after this webinar, you are now a multimodal creator. So I'm very impressed by your background. Thank you very much. But my lesson at the end of the day to you, please be human, be authentic, right? And this is what I'm saying. Use these tools to find a way to be more human, to be more engaging, to lose your polish a little bit, and explore. So with that, we'll transition in. I know we're towards the end of the hour, but we've got some time for some questions.
Amazing. Thanks for walking us through all of that. It's kind of nuts how many, it's like, there's so many tools, but it's crazy how much you can already do with like especially some of the video, like the picture to video things and the avatar. This like, it's like you can kind of tell you're like, okay, like this is not a real person, but like we're so close to getting there. So anyways, yeah, if you guys have questions, you can put them in the chat or the Q&A. I have a few already. So one is how can AI help to look for trends and consumer preferences to help with content creation?
That's a great question. I think what's interesting is where does the data lie? And the TikTok trends, TikTok is going to try to hold on to as closely as they can, and the X trends they're going to try to hold close to the vest. I've found that Gemini, Google used to have Bard, now they're calling it Gemini, but because Google is sort of there to get that, like I found Gemini to be the best at identifying recent trends and preferences. They seem to be pulling data from more relevant sources than ChatGPT and OpenAI. It's not based on any knowledge. That's just sort of my vibe on where those trends are coming from.
Awesome. I have another one as well. Can these types of tools help with customer support? What sort of AI tools exist for customer support, customer interactions on social media?
Yeah, on social, I know there's a few things. Nothing that is. I don't. There are so many different social platforms that are approaching things differently. I don't know that there's a good tool yet that matches the level of authenticity that you might want to get across, right? You don't necessarily want fully automated responses and things like that. The question of the future, is can you use those avatars to create a better customer experience? Can you teach the avatar to give order updates, right? Or can you use your avatar to send, instead of sending people an order confirmation, send them a video. Hey, thanks for ordering, Bob. We really appreciate it. You like this, you'll also like this. Could you use a video to improve the customer experience that way? Can you reinvent what you do? Can you give a consistent customer experience from social to the web to email where people see the same face that's associated with your company all the time? And that face is one that's giving them content, but then they're also able to engage with. That's a really interesting future state. And we'll see if people go for that, right? I look at that in my own life. I don't know that I necessarily want that, but if I knew, oh, great, the Spectrum person is sending me a video, he's funny, I'm going to watch him, like personality, right? Like you have to give these, you don't want these people to talk like robots. People don't want to engage with robots. People are sick of robots. Your IVR, kill your IVR. Nobody wants interactive. If somebody calls you on the phone, have a human being answer it. There's no AI solution to answering your phone better. Just answer your phone. So
yeah, that makes sense. I feel like there's always that scenario of like calling the bank or something, you get the automated and then you're just kind of like shouting human at it and eventually like you get to a person. But yeah, that's totally fair, like in terms of drawing a line between, yeah, what are things better suited for making sure that you just have like superior customer service with people and what can you kind of like automate with AI. I actually have another question. So you talked about a lot of different tools and we're sharing this recording with everyone afterwards. So you don't have to memorize anything. But if someone was looking to create just like using AI to help them create content for maybe like social, to like maybe help promote like their product, like if they're like an e-commerce seller, is there a tool that you would just say like this is a great place to start as someone who doesn't have experience really using those AI tools, or like where would you kind of recommend is just like a great starting point?
So I would say, and I'm not an Adobe person, so I know Adobe's got a lot of things in this space that are expensive. But for basic content creation, day in and day out, if you haven't spent time with Canva, Canva is so easy to use. Canva can make videos so quickly and easily. They've made some really smart integrations with other things, so you can actually start to do text to video within Canva. I think you'll see the synthetic avatars, starting to pop in there. So Canva has sort of planted that flag that says, okay, we're going to be the place where everybody can sort of do this and do it well. So that's one of those tools that was kind of on my radar, but until we got in there playing with it and realized how easy it was there. If you're big in the TikTok world, CapCut is really probably smart to get good at what's in CapCut, because that's going to help you stay ahead of the TikTok trends. And if you're a little more advanced, Runway is basically designed. Their vision is to become a platform for filmmakers, video creators, and things like that. So if you have a video bent and you're not using Runway, I would heavily recommend Runway. So those would be my top 3. If you just want to play, go to Pika.art or Twisty.ai. Just kind of see what's out there for those.
Awesome. Cool. Well, I think that's all the questions we have. And we're right at the top of the hour. So thanks, Steve, yeah, this was super interesting. It's nuts how there's just, all these tools already available for people to just dive in. And yeah, it was a pleasure having you. And if you want to reach out to Steve, you can check him out at talentless.ai or steve.mudd@talentless.ai. And yeah, have a wonderful Thursday. Today's Thursday, right? Yes. Oh, Leap Day. I didn't even
Leap Day,
skip the
yeah.
whole happy Leap Day. I know. It should be like really just enjoying it.
Show of hands. How many people use the word leap in their marketing today on social?
No doubt.
No
Everyone.
doubt.
Yeah.
Everywhere.
Like
Yeah.
the frog, Google, I think has like a little frog on like for the Google Doodle or something like that. But anyway.
Yeah, well, thank y'all again, and yeah, feel free to reach out. Look forward to hearing from you, and check out 8Fig if you're not already an 8Fig customer. But get there.
Wonderful. Thanks, guys. Have a great one.